any woman in business, like your superpower strategy is your network. It is the relationships that you cultivate and just truly building a beautiful ecosystem of other women offering other services and genuinely referring each other. Like there's no tactics to that. It's how it is our natural way of being in business. And I just love that so much about both of us.
Women, this is a business podcast like no other. It is time to turn on your body, your life force, your eros, and your mission. It is time to tune up the volume of your voice and your message. Let this podcast be a permission slip and a portal into the next level of expansion in your business and the next upgrade in your personal brand and body of work. I will bring to you feminine leaders, way showers, and disruptors who are doing business differently. I hope you enjoy the episode.
I am interviewing my business bestie today, and I feel like this is such an appropriate interview for this. Could be the first episode. It's going to be one of the first few. So you're either listening to this right at the beginning, like April 2025, or it's going to be May. And I'm just so excited to have this conversation because the woman that is here with me today, Monica Krake, is somebody I met, I don't know, a few years ago through mutual friends, but we talk nearly every day. We have like a marathon of a WhatsApp conversation that has just carried us through so many different iterations of our businesses. And we both coincidentally are boy moms. So, we just like our journeys they parallel each other so much. Like we both have two boys. We both have a traditional marketing background. We both created these online platforms that support women in their healing and awakening journey. We both, in the last couple of years, have and are still making huge, courageous leaps in our businesses. And we both just seem to resonate with the same type of like teachings at the same time. So we truly are journeying together as mothers, as women in business, our spiritual journeys. And I just can't stress enough the beauty and importance of women supporting women and having like these types of relationships on this wild ride and initiation that we call business. And so, yeah, I would love to introduce you to my business bestie, Monica Krake. She is the founder of Head Plus Heart. She also has a marketing agency. She runs a program called the Business Activation, and we'll talk about all of these things throughout this podcast. But I'm so excited for you to meet her. And, what I'd love to start off with is how's your week going? What's turning you on most about your week and your business and your life right now? Let's just have a conversation that we normally have.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for the intro. It's so nice to be here. I know I can't believe how many parallels there are between our lives. It really just feels like we were kind of meant to connect at this particular moment in time, or these last few years even. Like you said, like having two kids, both starting marketing agencies, both really loving the idea of like, well, you've done it and I really kind of haven't, but living between two countries. And I think almost like more than anything, like a commitment to taking the guided path in business and moving beyond what has been traditionally taught as the way to do business and stepping into like the possibilities that open up when you drop out of the mind, out of the culture, and into your body and into receiving guidance from the higher forces that are here to support us with what we're bringing to life. And I feel like we really just have that in common, and it's kind of like the current that is like the thread that ties all of our many daily WhatsApp chats together. So even though this is the first podcast you've interviewed me on, I feel like we've had a podcast going for like a couple of years now.
Now we're just sharing it with everybody.
Exactly.
One of my favorite stories, and like I see this as being one of the biggest sort of like pivots in your business career evolution, was you had a reading by an intuitive, and at the time I think you had Head Plus Heart and your marketing agency, and you were all in on those things, and she told you, and I want it to come from your words, but she pretty much said that you are here to like bring people into love, and like essentially the opposite, not the opposite, but it was like a huge just detour in terms of what you were doing. And that actually opened up like a whole other timeline of you getting into breathwork and like weaving breathwork and business. And, you know, your businesses have all evolved so much since then. But can you tell us about that conversation that you had with that intuitive, and how you first, like how it landed with you when you first heard it, and how that from that moment, like it really did steer a new path for you and your business?
Yeah, for sure. It's a good story. So basically, my background, as you've said, I run a marketing agency. That had been kind of what I've been doing for 15 years as a co-founder of an agency in Vancouver. And then in 2016, I was inspired to launch a wellness platform, Head Plus Heart. And it's kind of taken on a few different versions over the years. So I don't remember the exact date. I feel like it was around 5 years ago. I was relaunching Head Plus Heart. So I had it was a directory of practitioners, a showcase of their upcoming events, expertise that people would write and contribute to the site, but mostly all written by me interviewing people, and just a place to find really like resources. And so I was like giving it a glow up. I was bringing on some new people, and this intuitive, her name's Karina Cho, she emailed me and she wanted to be part of it. She had been reading my newsletter for a couple of years, and she's like, I see that you're kind of taking it in a new direction. I'd really like to be part of it and offer you a reading. And so it was like probably like a weekend morning where I got up early. She was in a different time zone, had this intuitive reading with her while my family was all asleep, just on Zoom with my earbuds in, and really didn't expect much. I was like, oh, she seems like a sweet person. I'll give it a chance. But I wasn't really thinking much of it. And she took me on this guided, like, shamanic journey. Like a guided, intuitive, shamanic journey. And she kind of like plays a drum, and there's music, and she tunes into your spirit guides. She tunes into the guides that she believes are traveling with every single person. That's her paradigm for how she works with people. And at the end of it, she's like, asking me how it felt. And I was like, good. It was like deeply relaxing. And she's like, okay, so you're not really here to promote other people. She's like, you're here. What the guides want you to know is that you're a luminous light practitioner.
That's right. A luminous light practitioner.
I mean, those are not words I would ever speak. So I was like, what? And she's like, I'm like, no, you're getting it wrong. Like, I'm relaunching this site. It's all about like, I'm showcasing all these great facilitators and practitioners and sharing their magic. And she's like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. She's like, that can be a part of it. She's like, but you're supposed to be, you're a luminous light practitioner. You're here to like help people connect with God and connect with love in whatever way you want to. But at that time I had been really diving deep into breath work. And then I started getting like my own messages around that journey that I was really meant to be, sharing breathwork in the way that I'm here to do. And like what I've come to believe about sharing our work, whether it's like energy healing or breathwork or sound healing or coaching, it's like you bring what comes through you, like your own it's our own connection with with ourselves and with the higher forces that surround us, and like our expression of that and our capacity to hold space in the energy and frequency of the gifts that we have, that once we unlock those, and they can come through really quick. And I feel like it's been like, it just was like a really fast detour, like you said, into a new realm of how I'm holding space for people. But at first my reaction was like, no. But like I said that, but I also kind of felt like I knew there was something to it, because I've had this desire to almost like work with people spiritually since I was a kid. Like I've had lots of signs. So yeah, it was crazy, but having that session, and it was very affirming. So I think in that way, like hearing those words from her, and then a couple months later from another close friend of mine who's an intuitive, they started coming in like, you're meant to be like shifting gears here. And so I have.
I don't know. I'm sure I told you about the session I had with Karina, because I am always, Monica has like the best network of practitioners ever through Head Plus Heart. So she's always who I go to if I want to, know what kind of reading or anything. She just like Head Plus Heart is the holy grail for all of that. And so I had my session with her, and I wanted to be very mysterious. I did not want to tell her anything about me or what I was doing. And I just like wanted that like clear, clean reading of what she did. And same thing, she took me on that shamanic journey. And then at the end, she's like, are you a body worker? And I was like, no, I'm like actually about to like launch a marketing agency. Like I have a marketing agency. We're relaunching it. This is when I was relaunching it as Presence Media. And she's like, okay, well, your spirit guides want you to know that like it's bodies, like you're working on bodies. And at first I was like, oh man, she's getting it wrong. Like I don't touch people's bodies. I work on the internet. And then it landed, and it was like, embodiment, somatics, like, yes, this is my way of weaving, marketing and body-based wisdom together. And so from there, I have had other readings that clearly like had an astrology reading done that was all around my mission and purpose. And it really is about sharing your voice and doing that from an embodied place. And so it's really interesting, when we take these more traditional paths or paths of the mind, or, maybe they're things we're good at. Like we're both obviously good at marketing. Marketing is a good field to be in. People need the services. People value the services. They know what it is. But both of us now are weaving like this mystical element into our work. And I'm just seeing this happen across all industries with women everywhere. And I call this like the work of the goddess, and I truly feel like so many women are here to be anchored into this realm, but really bring threads of divinity through their work, whether it is marketing or law or, finance or whatever industry it is. Light workers aren't just the ones that are in these healing modalities anymore. It truly is just becoming the way in which we do business across all industries. And I just think that's so cool. And I just love how that has worked through both of us.
Hey, it's Megan here. I hope you're enjoying the episode. I wanted to take a moment to tell you about our new program called You Are the Channel, Become Your Own Media Channel. This is a podcast launch program to accelerate your visibility and amplify your reach. This is self-paced, so you can do it at your own pace. And this is really for anybody who has been wanting to launch a podcast or wanting to share their voice and get their message out into the world. This program will walk you through the step-by-step process, starting from really getting into your channel and receiving the message that you're here to share, all the way to launching your podcast, monetizing your podcast, and using your podcast for an omnipresent content strategy. So wherever you are on the spectrum of wanting to launch your podcast, You Are the Channel is here to support you. All the links that you need are in the show notes, and let's go back to the episode.
Yeah, me too. And I totally agree with you. Like, I feel like maybe it's because I've created, this almost like a little bit of a bubble with Head Plus Heart and just friend circles and my network. But, every once in a while I will dip into more like traditional corporate industry places. And I do definitely feel like across the board, people are a few notches more open to taking a more wellness-based approach. And I think it's because there's just been so much collective burnout. So it's like out of necessity, like people are just, I think, more aware of the fact that there's a better way. You don't have to like reach that critical burnout before you start to like take a different approach to running your business. And there's also a growing body of like research out there where people have really shown that if you are not rested, if your nervous system is dysregulated for an extended amount of time, your brain capacity is a lot lower. It just doesn't work as well. And then you're not thinking at your best. You're not showing up in your most creative way. So all these things are kind of now, I think, weaving together. And it does feel like, the world's just so ready for what you call like a more feminine approach. And by the way, I do think Karina was right, because I think that's totally what you do. Like you always bring in the somatics and like the sensuality and the joy and pleasure piece to like how what's possible in business too. And I think that is kind of part of your unique expression for sure.
Which is so interesting, because I definitely did not start there. But I think that, we all are living our unique hero's journey and on this path. And, for a long time, like I had no connection to my body. Like this is relatively new. Like in the last 10 years, like definitely 5 years, in the last 5 years, I've really gotten into working with my cycles and like feeling and pleasure and like all of these things. But it's just so interesting to follow like our unique threads and to connect the dots of like, I had to learn this and then I experienced this and now this is like so integrated into what I teach. But I feel like we are all on this path in a way. And when you speak about like the awakening, that is happening right now in the world. And I feel like I remember the time when like yoga was weird, like yoga was fringe. And like I was like really secretive about meditating because I didn't want to be judged by everybody in my world. And now, we're so past that. And I just love how conversations around mental health and self-expression and even like, cycles, periods, like all of these things are becoming so much more accepted. And I think we've all had to go through that ego death and that death and rebirth process. And I'm seeing people now that I would have never thought would be open to anything that was like mildly woo, that are just like opening, right? I just think there's like an opening happening. And yes, we do exist in an algorithmic bubble of the universe of people that like live and breathe this way. But I do see the mainstream is just being more open. And that's where it starts, right? It just starts with like, maybe life isn't as fixed and rigid as my mind would like to believe. Like maybe there is a new possibility there. And then I think from that place of openness, life works with people, right? And it takes them where they need to go. And some people need to travel to like dark and dense and hard places. And some can listen and take the clues and work with them quicker. And but ultimately the awakening path has some pain and some suffering, and that can't be avoided. So I don't know. Do you want to speak to like your path of awakening and doing this alongside, being a mom and a business and what that's been like for you?
Yeah. So, I have so much to say about this because I feel like, it's, as you say, like algorithmically influenced. And I also can see, when I first started facilitating breathwork, my first couple of invitations came from, one was from Emily Carr University. I told you that. or Emily Carr Institute of Art and Design. So it's a big institution in Vancouver, like traditional. And they were putting on a wellness week for their faculty and had me come and do breath work. And another of the couple ones that came through in the beginning were like a big marketing agency who wanted to offer an experience to their team, a global agency. And yeah, I feel like what I've seen is that that almost like line between spirituality and non-spirituality, it's just kind of like melting, because everything is just language. It all just comes down to language and what people are comfortable with in their own choice of language. But at the end of the day, we're all pretty much the same on this journey of like doing whatever we do, having our careers, and some of us choosing to have children and families. And you know, you don't get through life without encountering loss and pain. And that leads you to these often bigger questions of like, why are we here? What is this all about? Is what I'm doing day to day satisfying? Do I like who I am as a parent? Like all those kinds of things that will bring you to maybe meet your own self in new ways in order to shift and grow and evolve. And I think like what I really love that I'm seeing in my own journey, and then also like, or in the world around, is that it's less taboo now to talk about some of these uncomfortable things like shame and fear, and the fact that everyone can be an asshole sometimes, and like everyone's got a dark side. Like none of us is perfect. It's not about being perfect and trying to like get to this like, you know, almost like transcendent divine state. It's, I think that narrative is starting to shift, and people are realizing that the path to freedom is like when you realize that we all have access to the divine within, and that we can access that. You know, people choose their paths and basically invite that higher love that exists within us to meet those places within our own body and being that are needing them. And that within our own body, we can really shift a lot and discover new levels of freedom no matter what life brings our way. And that is just the journey of kind of like inner strength and unity that I think a lot of people are really wanting as the world becomes so noisy and, you know, overstimulated, and with all the craziness that's going on like politically and geopolitically across the globe, that maybe the blessing of all that shit that's happening in the world is that we all end up kind of getting a little bit more aligned with what we are as human beings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And something that feels really powerful, like as we just become, I don't know, more real, more honest, more authentic in our human experience, right? And more willing to meet the moment as it is, instead of wearing masks or pretending, or, you know, I remember a few years ago when like authenticity was the buzzword of the internet, and everybody's like now being authentic, and like verbal diarrhea and like oversharing and all of these things for a certain reaction. Like that was a thing.
Like
that
crying
was like
on Instagram.
like crying on Instagram to get better engagement. I guess that was like a course correct to like the over polished, perfect type of movement. And now I feel like the trend is more like, at least in what I'm seeing, like just show up when you want to show up. Don't show up when you don't want to show up. Like have a strategy that feels, you know, more authentic, I guess, to your energy and desires. And also like that makes sense for your business. And we'll talk about marketing stuff in a minute, but I did want to say that I think a superpower and like the number one marketing tool, the number one thing any woman in business should have is our relationship with other women that are going through the same thing. Because there's nothing more heart-centered and humbling and grounding than being able to authentically share your experience moment to moment, day by day. Because it's not easy every day. Absolutely not. And we are all having the same worries. We are all being initiated in the same things at different times. And to be able to have those close connections, whether it is like me and you on WhatsApp, whether it's a mastermind, whether it's like a group of women in your community, women are meant to do business together. Women are meant to be in community. And I think a big piece of that is so we have the safety to be able to really, truly share what we're experiencing and still feel seen and loved and accepted. And then have the reflection of another woman and another person to be like, yeah, how many times do we say this in our conversations? Like, yeah, I was feeling like that too. And this worked for me. Or like, have you thought of this? Like just that mirror, I think is... it's just the greatest gift and the greatest joy to have relationships like this. And I think it's really carried me through times of just like doubt and uncertainty and questioning. And then it's also in the times of like creativity and celebration really helped affirm like, yes, I see you in this. You've got this. So yeah, it's very powerful.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I feel the same way. And I'm so grateful that like our paths have crossed and all the things that we've kind of seen each other through. And, I actually feel like this is one of the things, like it's one of the cornerstones of being successful in business is actually, business and life, like it's all the same. It's like, you need to be in a community where you can be celebrated and share your like highs and lows and have someone that's like going alongside it with you. Like, I feel like it's not just I think it's essential. It's not just a nice to have. Like, it feels like it's pretty essential. I actually did like a workshop about this like a few months ago, the 3 keys to business success. And it was, let me think if I remember them. But community was one of them. The other part was strategy. Oh, and energetics. But yeah, community was one of them. And just like how much easier life gets when you have a group of supportive people, or even just one or 2 or 3, or just join a group that feels like it's going to give you that kind of deep connection where people actually care about each other and they really want to see each other succeed and are at maybe a similar or in the spectrum of similar places where you're sharing your expertise, you're sharing your resources, you're sharing your networks and what you have to offer one another. And it's like you can just unlock so many doors in your business where maybe that thing that you need to get to the next level, it falls in your lap. It's introduced to you. It's handed to you without any effort, where it maybe would have taken like a lot of time, doing some internet research or trying to find that right connection. Like I think are meant to like make things kind of easier for each other through our communities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think there's 2 things there. The first being, and the word expander is used a lot, like just surrounding yourself with people that have the same big visions and that are really operating in the world in the same way, because it's not standard. And I find there was a long time in my business where I didn't have a lot of those connections that were also, like inspired women in business. And I always felt kind of out of place and really misunderstood. And so finding those communities where it's normal to claim really big things, where it's normal to talk about, the ebbs and flows of the creative process and of strategy and of these lifestyles that we're claiming that are very not standard, right? And so I think that's one piece of the power of of having a really solid feminine network of women in business. And then the other piece is like you said, it's the connections and the referrals and the collaborations. In my business, pretty much all of my work comes from referrals. It comes from real relationships I've built either with friends, peers, or clients, and just being known for doing a good job and having those referrals just come really naturally. And every time we're both marketing nerds, so we play with a lot and we do marketing for lots of different types of businesses. And so, I love a good funnel and I love like a good launch and ads, and all these things are really fun and great. But I think for any woman in business, like, your superpower strategy is your network. It is the relationships that you cultivate, and just truly building a beautiful ecosystem of other women offering other services and genuinely referring each other. Like, there's no tactics to that. It's how it is our natural way of being in business. And I just love that so much about both of us. Like, we've both cultivated that in our own way. And can you speak a little bit more to how you've grown that, like with Head Plus Heart in your work, and how that's really helped your businesses thrive?
Yeah, for me, like, I think because when I first started Head Plus Heart, it was purely like a passion project. I did hope, okay, I hope this becomes a business one day, and I want to do this, but I had this idea. I wanted to create a place where people could find really great spiritual and wellness resources, like kind of cut through the noise if they're looking for stuff online and get some like personal referrals and like tried and true. And as everything from practitioners, community gatherings, events, all the stuff. So, I started Head Plus Heart. It's an online platform. People share their things on there. And it's evolved, and I can talk about that later. But the big part that I was motivated towards was sharing what I was trying and how it was impacting my life. And so I love to write, and my main thing on there was basically writing articles and then sharing like these monthly roundups in the newsletter. And over the years, that's really what's grown. And it's not just like a marketing email. It's like, I love the people that I've met through that newsletter. Like, I have met friends through, like, I created this platform because I needed it too, back in 2016. And over the years, like, I've met some incredible healers. I've met people at like local events and events around the world. And like, I respond to all the emails. Like, people email me all the time and tell me their problems and what they're looking for, and I'll just share whatever I've got. Like, it's just a very like your friends, advice from a good friend kind of thing. And so because that's what I love to do, it's when I eventually have created Head Plus Heart into more of a business, and even doing like my breathwork and my mastermind group, I've attracted a lot of people through there who've just been following my own story over the years and have gotten to know me and just know my background and want to work with me. So now running like a business mastermind, and it's like a coaching course that I'll be offering like periodically. When I'm teaching people how to do business and marketing and what's going to work, I don't really go with the formulaic stuff that a lot of agencies do with their clients that does work. Like, I tend to tell people, like, focus on what you love to do. Like, some people, like, Instagram's not really going to get you anywhere, or TikTok. If you're more old school and you like a live event, just do like monthly workshops and use like your live teaching experiences as a way to connect with people that could potentially become clients. But I think it's also moving beyond the transactional nature of marketing into like genuinely figuring out, like, if you didn't get paid, what would you want to do? Like, if you have a clear answer to that, then do more of that, because that's ultimately probably going to be what's going to support you in building like a real community, which I think is like really, really important, especially if you're having any type of a wellness business.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like that's like the heart. Like that's like the heart-led approach, right? Which always works better than the like forced, pushed, formulaic approach, always. And not only does it work better because it's the natural way, but it works better because it's the way that it's enjoyable. Like it's how you actually want to live your life. And I think that's where what we all should be, that should be our standard, right? Like, am I enjoying what I'm doing? Do I feel good about the services I'm offering? Am I embodied in them? Is this in integrity? And then like, what is the natural unfolding of that? And, you know, my story with Shevolve, which was my first business that was very similar to Head Plus Heart in the sense it was like many women coming together and writing for us and sharing their stories. And then that evolved into an agency. And then that agency kind of went into a rebirth process and became Presence Media. And now, you know, our clients, a lot of them were coming up to 3 years together. And we're having new clients join us all the time. And it feels like just a partnership. And that is what I call it, because it is such a joy and a delight to offer these services to these women who I feel so deeply invested in their vision and their why. Like we have a shared mission, and you know, I know that we all like we're doing goddess work. We have a shared mission. We're here to anchor more love and light on the planet, like in our own way. And you know, I will only work with people who have that shared resonance, because it doesn't feel like work. It feels like a co-creative process. And I know that word is like so buzzy but it is a co-creative process. We are receiving information and turning it into something of value for the world. And yes, we're running your business in the background and we're helping you with the launches and we're doing all these things, but it's just so much more than that. And I think the more women who can realize that, like come into that realization and operate their businesses in that natural heart-led way, just the more natural success that we're going to have, right? And so it sounds sometimes easier said than done, because like we want to make sure that these businesses are returning something that, you know, give us the lifestyle that we want. But can you speak to like what you see when that's not happening, like kind of the blocks and the missteps that you've taken or that you see people take that ultimately is like delaying their path of alignment with their business?
Yeah, I think what it is like when we are subscribing to like, this is the right way to do it. I've been taught this is what other people are doing. You maybe set up your funnel, you set up your ads, you get on other people's podcasts, maybe you have like 5 boxes that you're going to check for a campaign or a launch. But it feels on some level forced, because maybe that's not really how you enjoy showing up, or maybe you're adopting a formula and choosing like even like language. I've seen this a lot with people. Well, they'll kind of like go with the language of the day, you know, how people are describing their stuff. And then it just kind of lacks resonance, because it's like, oh, I've heard this like 50 million times. And like, what does this even mean? Like, I'm trying to think of an example, but you could probably think of like a lot of examples where
many examples when I've done this.
And then you're like,
it happens all the time.
It happens all the time because people start to copy each other online, or even like you'll see a lot of people using the same types of like imagery and fonts and font combinations, and then it just feels really cookie cutter. And I think in our, you know, saturated world, people can tell if something's just not, you just feel like, oh, what does this even mean? Or it just kind of feels like it feels insincere, or maybe it feels like it loses the meaning because they've seen it so much. So basically, I think that is kind of one of the things that people fall into. And then as a business owner, if you find yourself kind of trying to do things the way, you're basically disconnecting from your way of doing it. And the discovery of your own path is what leads to success. Like, I've seen a lot of people who will start doing a launch, not my clients, but just friends or people in the industry that are like, oh, I tried all these things and just nothing worked. And then they just went back to doing it the way that they wanted. Maybe it was like picking up the phone and inviting 10 people into their course, or sending like personalized invitations to a mastermind or a retreat. And then we're able to kind of connect with people and rediscover those more meaningful pathways to connect that is aligned with like how they really want to do business, what they would want if they were being invited into something similar. So I think it's just humanizing what we do that has gotten lost. And like maybe some of those massive launch strategy stuff, like it does work for a lot of people, but it works for people who I think that's their way. And so we're not all meant to be doing everything the same way. And I think that's kind of the key lesson. And like, I've made that mistake too. Like, I can't remember what it was, but I was putting something out there in my email, and then I decided to follow this like launch strategy. I was like all like revved up. I had like read this book, and this guy who had this whole formula, and it obviously worked really well for him and a million other people, so many good testimonials. So I'm like, I'm going to try this out. And I just kind of basically started doing it, and midway through I'm like, oh, this just does not feel right, because I would never talk to people like this. I would never send this many emails to anybody. I find it like tacky. And so I kind of just backpedaled. And so, yeah, I mean, we all get swept up in what's happening in the world. And I think you have to sometimes make those kind of mistakes to know like where you are needing, to listen to yourself versus like the craziness of everything going on around you, even if it might be valid for others. If that makes sense.
It's like the resonance effect, right? And I think this is becoming even more important as the internet becomes more artificial, because I can definitely sense truth and heart and authenticity when I'm on social media, or when I feel somebody. You can tell somebody that's embodied in their work and they're speaking from their heart, and it's like clean compared to somebody that's like grabby and trying to get your attention and is like, I don't know, like pump and post through ChatGPT or whatever just to create a lot of content. And again, coming back to the natural way, I think that when we can really, and there is a lot of deconditioning that has to happen for most people, to be like what is true for me when I bring my business, like with my online business. And we are being sold, everybody wants to be the next Murray Forleo or Tony Robbins or whatever, but not everybody really does. Like, do we really desire to have an online presence like that and a life like that? I know I've had to do a lot of reflecting on that, because, we are told like, if you're going to be online, like you may as well be you got to be making $100,000 a month and have this type of funnel and be speaking on stages and be flying around doing masterminds and stuff. Well, all of that is like quite seductive and could be fun. Like, I'm open to it if that is my highest path. Like, ultimately what is important for me is being in my body, being present with my family, eating good food, being around good company. Yes, having the ability to travel and be location independent feels really important, to be able to choose the clients that I want to work with. But do I need to have a TED Talk? I don't know. Like, I'm not going to focus on that. If it comes, it'll come. I'm publishing a book. I told you that. And that does feel like, yeah, well, I'm going to write a book. If it doesn't publish, it doesn't publish. It's all about the joy and the journey a lot of these times too, right? Like when we are just in love with the creative process, it's not out of like an outcome or a necessity. It's creation for the sake of creation. And I think if we can bring that back to our unique business and our unique gifts and what we're here to bring to the world, and then really truly ask ourselves, like, how does my heart desire to show up in the online space? And like you said, a lot of the times it isn't trying to like make these multi-million-dollar funnels and do these things. It can just be as simple as like, what does my community need? How can I create a space and an offer that benefits the people in my community? Or, you know, like, how can I serve this group of people in a way that feels authentic to me? I think it's really important that we ask ourselves that, like, where are we subscribing to these marketing tactics and methods that aren't actually aligned with us? Like, if we don't want to be showing up on Instagram stories every day, like, don't build a business that relies on social media. And it's very helpful to ask ourselves these as early on as possible, so we don't need to continue to learn through, you know, trial and error.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think the key thing in there is like enjoyment. Because if you are like pushing forward, you know, pushing and convincing, that's not an energy that feels good. So yeah, it's not to say that there's not successful businesses out there that do that, because there are, and they're making money, and defining success however you want to define it. Like, that's not, I think, the way that, you know, the clients that would choose to work with either of us, they're over that. So they're ready to step into like greater pleasure. And even if you're not wanting to, you know, go all in on social media, you can still make a multi-million-dollar company. Social media is not the only way. There are lots and lots of other ways. It can be more about, you know, an email list I love, like just connecting with people, like Substack or any email list, like writing and sharing. That is still an incredible way to connect with a community, and live. And those don't always require social media. It can be an element, but it doesn't need to be totally central. So there's many, many, many ways. And I think like that's the key, is like finding the way that really feels like joyful and sustainable. And then also like being part of a community that can continue to mirror to you what's possible, and giving yourself the support, so that obviously when you step into like running a bigger company, you want to be very well supported and well resourced, and it's not all just about what you're good at. Your team might do social media for it too. But, you know, those are all the questions that kind of unfold as we kind of step into these bigger versions of success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to hear about your bigger version of success in a minute, because I know we're both moving in and transitioning into like this more CEO era of our careers, right? I mean, you've had your marketing agency for 15 years. You've had Head Plus Heart for a period of time, and I know you're just in this like growth trajectory, and you're doing some big things with Head Plus Heart, and over here on Presence Media, like, you know, we're growing this agency. I see it being a multi-million-dollar agency, and I've sat with that, and I've been like, do I just want to grow it to that amount because that feels sexy and like fun? And then, you know, the truth is, if I'm doing this, I want it to be successful. If I'm pouring my life force and creating this, I really want it to be successful. And so who do I need to become to steward this business to that level of impact? And for me, doing it in a way that is like relaxed and joyful and, you know, soft girl era, like that's a non-negotiable. And I know that is for you also. And so I'd love to hear about your plans with, you know, Head Plus Heart and the business activation of what's coming up, you know, for you. And also how you are now leaning into a softer, more relaxed way of bringing these big visions to life.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to say, like, I'm totally celebrating you and this transition that you've made into launching Presence Media in such a beautiful way, and just looking at all the incredible clients that are working with you who are almost like living out those similar types of missions in the work that they're doing, it's like you're proving that it's possible. So it's so fun. I feel like having this podcast at this particular moment in time, because now you've had Presence Media for about a year or a few years. How many years? Where were you at?
It's been a few iterations. I'd say as Presence Media, like we did a big rebrand in the fall, and we've been offering services like this for probably 3 to 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, because you've had that transition, like sort of from She-Evolve into Presence Media. Mm-hmm. And I feel like anyone who's listening to this, like so much can happen for both of us in our companies and in what we're bringing to life in the next year, because it really feels like a moment of being on the cusp. And I think partly because there's so much change happening in our world globally with AI, politically, like all the stuff. And then it also feels like we're in this time where people are making big shifts. Like for me, so to answer your question, I'm taking a step back from my marketing agency, which has been kind of my bread and butter, my go-to for the last 15 years. And this year, I'm going all in on Head Plus Heart, and I'm partnering with another company who is going to support me in creating like a more robust platform that basically does what it supports the mission of Head Plus Heart, which is really to showcase and elevate incredible teachers and practitioners all over the world, events, experiences, things like hot and cold plunge places and places to go for wellness and spirituality. So it's going to continue to be like a heart-centered, curated guide, but it will be broader. And I'll continue to share like our kind of vetted choices in the newsletter and the roundups, but it'll be a lot broader, and we're just expanding the platform in order to kind of build more of a community and lift up, I think, the great people and healers and practitioners out there that our world really needs right now. And it's like a matchmaker for people and the resources they need to resource themselves and to be inspired, just to like have a beautiful life and work. Like that's what it's all about, life and work. And then personally, like alongside that, this year, I really feel like it's just been a beautiful, almost like transition in how I'm offering breathwork. And I tend to be offering it more with business communities, but I also feel like I've had a lot of inspiration to bring breathwork into more just communities, like my own community. And I was invited to support a community downtown Vancouver where I live as well. And just create spaces for people to really land, to learn how to deeply care for themselves and to connect with other people, to be inspired on this path that we're on. Those are the things that are kind of like my top priorities right now, and that I feel like I'm in the midst of like opening up these new chapters where those are my priorities. And like, I feel like who knows what's going to happen this year, but it just feels like it's all starting to snowball. So I feel like we'll have to like chat again and do like a part two to see what all happens.
We'll be chatting again.
I mean, here, because I'll talk to you later on today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I do feel we're on the cusp of something, right? Like, of course, like there is a lot transitioning in our collective reality right now, and I think in our inner realities, for a lot of people in my world right now, we've been laying the groundwork for some time and really crystallizing our message and why we're here and what we're doing in our businesses and training, softening in our nervous systems and really just doing the work for a long time. And I don't know about you, but it doesn't even feel like doing the work anymore. It actually feels like life feels just a lot more relaxed and enjoyable moment to moment. And that's how I know it's working. Like it's all working because there's not striving. There's no gap anymore. There's no gap. It's just here. It's arrived. And I feel like from that place, the capacity to hold bigger and bigger and by bigger and bigger, I just mean more responsibilities, like, more connections, all of that. It's here, it's arrived. And so just trusting the divine alignment of all of this work. I know we're ready, and probably a lot of people listening, like, they feel they're ready. And so this podcast is such a place to be like, let's fucking go. It's our time. Like, it's our time. It's our time. And we're meant to shine, and we're meant to receive all of the abundance and joy that is our divine birthright. So here it is. Let's go.
Yeah. And like, we also have the capacity to increase our capacity. So like, whenever like life invites you into something bigger, like, you can like lay down. I mean, I use breathwork for this, but like, lay down and breathe yourself into a more expanded state of receiving what life is bringing. Kind of like, we can calibrate ourselves into these higher places that we want to go. When patterns show up, like, we're habitual creatures, we can work through them. Like, we're not here to be stagnant. Like, this is like a life of evolution and shifting and growing and expanding. Like, that, I think, is like the nature of life. So I feel like we're in a really exciting time, and I'm grateful to be on this path with you.
Yeah, me too. All right. Well, where can people find you if people want to connect? Where can they find you on the internet?
On the internet, well, are you going to do show notes underneath your podcast?
Yeah, it'll all be there.
I'll drop my sign up for the newsletter if anyone wants to get my monthly guide. Can I just shout out your
newsletter for a moment? Because like, people may be like, oh, newsletter. We all have different feelings about that. But your newsletter is actually like lovely. Like, it's Monica's essence infused in words, and she has great recommendations of practitioners and events, and these are like all over the world. Lots definitely here, like on the west coast of North America, but there's like global stuff there, and it's just everything that's kind of like new in the realm of like consciousness and wellness and spirituality that you're finding really interesting, you bring into the newsletter, and it's just such a natural expression of you. So if you're looking for a newsletter that actually enhances your life, then yeah, I'll do a sign up link in the show notes for that, and I'll link to Head Plus Heart. And yeah, and what else do you have coming up?
Well, on April 28th, I don't know if this will be on before that, I'm offering an online guided breathwork session. So that's for anyone who wants to kind of play with breathwork as a form of tapping into your full spectrum of being, becoming your own healer, and like living into a higher state of inner freedom. I hope I didn't oversell it with that description, but that's literally how I feel about breathwork. So, I mean, yeah, so I'm offering that. And then other than that, you can just, find me on my newsletter, find me on Instagram, and just check out Head Plus Heart. And I'm always just open to connection and meeting people and collaborations and all that fun stuff. So I look forward to connecting with anyone who comes through your community.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, we'll do a part 2 of this one day soon.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on everything.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode, and thanks so much to another amazing guest. If you love this episode, please make sure to subscribe to our channel. We are committed to producing weekly episodes to turn you on and tune up the volume of your voice and impact in the world. I would love to stay connected. You can come and follow me over on Instagram at The Grounded Visionary. Or if you're interested in learning more about the services we provide at Presence Media, check us out at www.presencemedia.co. See you next week.